Hey friends, welcome back. Kris Krohn here, and I've got Jerry here to break down the biggest mistakes and horror stories that you can see in the game of flipping, because you know what? People are so attracted to this space by making some great money, but it can go downhill very, very, very fast. Listen, if you haven't met Jerry yet, he is the king of flipping, and I bring him on the channel here from time to time so he can really talk about the very best ways to safely flip properties or do assignments and contracts, flipping paper. Basically, how can you make $5,000, $10,000, $30,000, $50,000? You're working on a deal that might have $900,000 of profit on a flip.
Yeah, big one. Yeah.
You know, so all of a sudden there can be this insanely good amount of money, but the question is, what do you do to avoid the typical pitfalls and trial and error that new flippers make?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So first of all, it's not at all like the TV shows you see, right?
Fix and flop.
It's not at all like that. There's a reality to this business, and a lot of people, you know, they sugarcoat it, they gloss over it. And so let's talk about it. You know, we have a formula that we want to follow.
Yeah, and we did another video basically talking about, you know, what's the formula to crunch the numbers. And so we're going to hit it just really briefly again here. Let's walk them through it so that we can do an actual example for you guys and show you where do things go bad fast.
That's right.
So
first we have ARV. Now that's an acronym for after repair value.
So what's your home going to be worth after you fix it up?
Yep. Then we multiply times 0.7, which is basically saying I'm going to carve out 30% off the top of the ARV.
And that 30% is going to cover closing costs, carrying costs, and your profit.
And your profit. Yep. And then you're going to say, okay, now I got to take out the repair number, whatever it costs in repairs to fix it up. And then what I'm left with after subtracting that out is your buy price.
So you know what? Often I'm recommending people do deals, Jerry. When they're brand new, I'm saying, hey, stay underneath the median, right? The national median's $220,000. Let's say in your area, $200,000, $230,000 was kind of the average. Let's actually use that as an example.
200,000.
We'll kind of pop it in here and then say, where in this formula do you see things go south?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that the home after repair value, after it's repaired, it's going to be worth $200,000, but then we got to cover, we got to pull 30% out. That's going to be used for the carrying costs, the closing costs, and also your profit, which is going to turn this into $140,000. Mm-hmm. And then what kind of repairs do we want on this one?
Let's just say it's got 35 maybe. Okay, or do 40 just to keep it simple.
Okay, we got $40,000 in repairs. So we're going to take from 140, we're going to subtract 40,000. And we're going to say that after I subtract that, I have to buy this home at $100,000. Now, if I buy it and it's worth it and I sell it for 200, then if you take a look at this, there's about $30,000 of profits. If you're making a 15% margin.
15% is part of our 70%, yeah.
Because you make $30,000. So it's like, hey, dude, wouldn't you love to do a deal and make $30,000? And you're like, yeah, I would totally love to. Let's talk about where that can go right. Let's talk about where that can go wrong. So we're doing this deal real quick. Let's just break that down. So we've got 60,000 here. We basically have 9%.
Closing.
This is for closing, and that's going to be equivalent to about 18 grand. That's what 9% of the 200 is. We have 6% for carrying costs. Carrying costs means I borrowed the money from a hard money lender or from somebody, and I have to pay them interest on that after they get paid back, and that 6% comes down to $12,000. And then we're going to say that there's 15% for profit, and that 15% is whammo.
30,000.
And you're looking at the 30 grand, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna do this. We're gonna win big. It's gonna be awesome. So
yeah, you're going all excited. You're gonna make all this money. But there's two big mistakes that a lot of people make. And I've made this mistake, and I see a lot of new investors make this mistake.
I don't even know what you're going to say, and I'm like, I'm positive with thousands of deals I've made this mistake.
Yeah. So the first thing is our ARV number. Everybody wants to overinflate what they think it's going to sell for once it's fixed up.
Dude, you know what? And I got to tell you, I love being the optimist. People are like, dude, Kris, you're always so positive and happy-go-lucky, but there's one area in life you cannot be the optimist, and it's when it comes to money, because the optimist loses. You need to be optimistic about your goals and what you hope you'll make, but if you overinflate this, like, oh man, I bet it'll be worth $200,000, and the reality is maybe it's only going to be worth 160.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're right. So this is one of those areas, put a big question mark there, because if you tend to be optimistic in the numbers, do you mind if I share a quick story on this?
Sure.
Dude, I was not new to the game of real estate. I had bought maybe a dozen homes. I could tell a good deal from a bad deal. And this realtor was trying to bird dog a deal for me. And she found me a deal that was maybe worth $200,000. And she was trying to substantiate why she thought it was worth that. She went to a city next door and
comps.
picked a $500,000 house and jacked up the value by like 85 grand.
Yep.
And it was such a flagrant foul. I either said, you're trying to go to jail or you're an absolute idiot.
Yeah.
You're one of these two, and I'm not going to judge which. I'm just going to run. And dude, and that was one of those where when a realtor, for example, is running numbers, they've got a really great thing with the multiple listing service. Most of them will allow them to take a property, the subject property, and compare it to similar properties that have sold. And you're supposed to pick similar properties. And you get to pick what those are. But if you were to say, hey, let's compare it to this deal that sold for a lot more that is really not very much like this, but it would drive the number up, that would be inflating this number. And all of a sudden, remember, you got $30,000 of profit. So if it's only worth 160, guess what?
You're in trouble.
You're going to lose 10 grand.
Yeah.
You're going to lose $10,000 because you were optimistic in the wrong place.
And that's exactly what happens. You've got to look at comps, similar comparables of homes that sold that are either in your direct neighborhood or they're very similar. A buyer's going to look at your house the same way they did those other ones.
Yeah.
If you pick a comp across the street or across town or whatever in a nicer neighborhood and it sold for a lot higher and you're using that as a comp, it's going to mess your numbers up.
Yeah, so you gotta be really careful here. And if anything, you probably want to err on the side of being a little bit pessimistic, or maybe deflating the numbers and saying I've got safer margins rather than optimistic margins.
I like to look at 5, maybe 6 really good comps to feel good about my number. I don't want just one, or I don't need a dozen, but if I've got 5 or 6 that are real, legitimate, similar homes as comps, then I'm feeling pretty good about justifying my ARV.
And you guys, you understand that a home is only worth what someone's willing to pay.
Yeah.
So sometimes a home gets presented and you're like, I can't find any good comps. That's sometimes a sign that the market is slow. And if there are no comps, yours isn't going to become the next one either.
No comps are the same as bad comps.
Yes. So if you're like, well, I don't know, we just can't find anything good in the area to compare to, even if it looks like it could be good, remember, people are only going to pay what they're buying other things for similar in the area. And if people aren't buying in your area, it just might not be the deal you want.
And we don't want to gamble, right? If you don't have comps, you're gambling. You're going to say, I'm going to take
guess.
a big risk and guess.
I'm going to guess I understand what the market's
If you want to do
gonna
that, go to Vegas. This is we want to use this as much as we can as a science with comps. Okay?
Yeah. I want to say one other thing on this, because this is new information for some of you. You don't know what something's worth until someone buys it, but you're trying to buy a property guessing what its future value might be.
Chicken before the egg.
It is the chicken before the egg, catch 22. And so what you end up doing is you have to look at what has sold. Now, let me just give you an example here. Let's just say that in the neighborhood that all the homes were built 20 years ago, and let's just say they're all split levels, and let's say that they all have 1,800 square feet, and let's say they all have roughly 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, right? All of a sudden, everything is similar. Yeah. So when you say, well, the neighbor 4 houses down, you sold their house for $200,000, and it was fixed up similar to this one, and it was the same-ish year as this one, and it was the same everything. And then the one across the street 3 months earlier sold for also $201,000. And then another home on the other side of the street, 3 streets over, sold for $199,000. It's like, oh.
You got a pattern.
There's a pattern. They all look the same. They're all selling the same. And then this is a little bonus I want to drop on you. Sometimes we ask, how much should I fix up the home? Well, you shouldn't fix it up the way you want to live in it. You should fix it up to what the comps are doing. What is selling? If all 3 of them are using granite, you probably should put granite if you're expecting to get the same sales price, right?
That's right.
So this is where we want it to be a science, Jerry, but sometimes it's an art because sometimes you have to extrapolate. But if you have to extrapolate too much, that's when your uncertainty should go up through the roof and your risk goes with it.
Well, and you actually bring up the second biggest mistake, which is the repair number.
Yes.
And usually most people underestimate how much the repairs are, or They over-renovate. They over-renovate it.
Yeah,
it's easy to over-renovate.
It's just like, hey, it's only...
Let's do everything.
The tile, it's only 20 cents more a tile to put in this really nice looking. I was like, well, 20 cents over the whole freaking project is an extra $1,800. And by the way, $1,800 doesn't sound bad, but now just subtract $1,800 off of here. Now it's not 30. Now it is, it is 28,200. Oh, and then I decided that I wanted to include a washer and dryer. Okay, just take another $800.
Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
At 200 here, 100 there, 300 there can turn into 10 grand. Really,
if you think about it, a monkey can over-renovate a house. Anybody can go in and just spend, make it the most beautiful house in the neighborhood, and you don't make any money.
Yeah, we get emotional, almost like we're building it for us. But it's not for us. It's this myopic, strange thing that people do.
You have to take out that personal thing, and you have to strictly look at it, and you say, just what you said a minute ago, what will the market pay me? Where will I get the most bang for my dollar? How do I not spend 1 penny more or 1 penny less to get the biggest return on my flip?
Yeah, right now there's a house that I'm selling on the market, and they came back and they said, hey, it's a $20,000 to repair and get this to the level where you can sell it at this price. And I said, well, show me the pictures of the comps.
Yeah.
And we looked at the comps, and the comps weren't fixed up nearly as well.
Yeah.
And I said, guys,
we don't need to do that.
20 grand repair down to 14 grand.
Yeah.
We got to cut this thing down because I need Formica, not granite. And I need, I don't need Berber. I need, a high nap carpet. And,
exactly.
I need one-tone paint is fine in this neighborhood. I don't need crown and three-tone paint, you know?
Even though your natural instinct is, well, let's do all this nice stuff.
Nicer is better. False.
Yeah.
Nicer is not nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't overspend and don't underestimate. I have people all the time tell me, oh yeah, repairs are 25,000 and they're really 50,000 because they just don't quite know the numbers. I think if you're going to get into the fix and flip business, you have to take the time to learn what stuff costs.
And you have to scrutinize and get multiple bids, and that's how you're going to learn what the market's going to cost and bear. Something else on this repair that I just want to kind of talk about is that for me, Jerry, I find that when a home needs something cosmetic, when you're talking about 5 to 15 grand for carpet, paint, maybe cabinets and some basics, that stuff is easy to be very correct on.
Yeah.
Once you start moving from cosmetic to, well, we're taking this wall down and we're turning this into a library and we're going to finish the basement, that's where all of a sudden you become much less accurate. So I find that cosmetic, I can be accurate within 95%. Once you start getting into more than a cosmetic and you start doing heavy repair, all of a sudden you open up the wall and you're like, crap, I didn't see the termites. I didn't understand that this thing wasn't fixed. I didn't know I'd have to run ducting. I finished the basement. Oh, now HVAC is saying I need an upgraded furnace system to push air through the whole thing here. Oh, I need another AC unit. Well, while we're at it, let's just change out the appliances.
And you blow your budget. Yeah.
So whatever budget you have, you need to keep, because if you can't, there's nowhere for the money to come from other than the profit. So anytime you're wrong,
it's coming there.
Yeah. So if this is wrong, you're going to get here. If this is wrong, you're going to get hit here.
And think about it, Kris. If this house sells for 185 and repairs are, 55.
Yeah.
Which can happen.
This ends up selling for $185,000, so $15,000
Not that
less.
far off, but you're off.
40, you open it up and you're like, crap, there was settling, and then I needed to jack up one part of the house, and I had to
Or you overpay for more things than you should have.
And now you're at $55,000, so you're up 15 here, you're down 15 here, and your $30,000 is gone. And here's the suckiest part. I've done this before. And I'm going to tell you, the suckiest part is not making nothing. The suckiest part is saying, oh, I put in 180 hours. I went to Home Depot like 19 times. I
dealt with contractors.
Yeah. And by the time you're done, even if, and this is the other harsh reality, let's say that this is 10 grand and you're like, hey, I did this 2-month project. It was full time. I made 10 grand. Well, look at all the time you put in.
Yeah.
Look at your dollar per hour.
I made $4 an hour.
It's like, so you can't look at the big number and be like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to win. It's going to take a little more finesse and strategy that says, know your numbers.
And you know what, Kris? Another great lesson from this is that's why we follow the formula. I see a lot of investors that they're like, you know what? I'm okay if I make 15 grand on this deal. And they go into the deal to make 15, but then this doesn't sell for what they thought. They go a little bit over on this. All of a sudden, they're losing money.
Yeah, so friends, the reason why we want to shoot this video is to say, we're not here to dissuade you, by the way, from doing flipping. In fact, flipping can be an incredible source of revenue. What we are saying is be realistic and know the math. There is a tool that is really going to help you do this successfully, and it's something Jerry calls the data cruncher. Tell them about it.
Okay, it's really cool. What it is it's a deal finding software tool, and it's really cool. It's really simple to use. All you do is you enter in a zip code where you're looking for deals, and what it does is it scans the entire market, and then it gives you a list of all of the properties currently for sale, like right now, that are underpriced. They're below market value. It even tells you how far below market value they are. So it gives you a list of like, okay, these are the best deals that I can go after right now.
And this is a tool that you don't have to pay any money for. It's one of the reasons why I invited Jerry here is that I only want to give you as much value. I think if you really stayed for this part of the video, you're realizing, okay, I can do this, I can make great money, but cautionary tale here, there are stories, there are things that I need to be aware of. This tool is something that will absolutely help you. And I want to just share one last thing, that if you're brand new to the game of real estate, I do not want you to start with a flip. I want you to start with wholesaling a deal. And
Great
what that
advice.
means is find a deal that looks good, and then all the risk that happens with the actual doing of the deal, we want you to give it to an expert and let them pay you $10,000. And what it'll do is you get paid $10,000 for doing nothing other than finding the deal. And I want you to do that 2 or 3 or 4 times, because I want you to stockpile 20, 30, 40 grand that you can put in the bank, because number one, I promise you, it will be the least time for most money. And it will warm you up so when you get into the game of actually fixing and flipping, you've got a nest egg. You've set yourself up that if you do it wrong and you lose 5 grand or you only make 5 grand, that you still had some money in the bank. I want you protected when you go into the game of real estate. Jerry has an incredible invitation that he gives everyone, which is click the link in the description below. And he's put together a very, very special training online. I want you to go through it. It'll show you how you download. It'll download Data Cruncher for free that you can have free access to. He'll also show you how he'll be the one to give you $10,000 if you find a good deal. And by the way, if it's a great deal and you know it is, you could even do your own deal on it and make it all happen. So register for that and pick up that free tool and learn about it. It is 100% worth it. If you're this serious about getting in, then learn from an expert.